This week we're going to pivot a little bit. Instead of talking about pickleball paddles, we're going to talk about pickleball shoes. Hey everybody, it's Luca from Rackets Runners. So as much as I love talking about paddles, and honestly they are generally a little bit more interesting than court shoes, but that doesn't mean that the shoes you wear aren't extremely important. In fact, a good pair of court shoes can make a huge difference, both in terms of performance, but also safety on the pickleball court. I can't count the amount of times I've seen players pull up to the court in running shoes, and the whole time I'm watching them play, I'm dreading the classic ankle roll. So if there's only one thing you take away from this video, this is it. You need to wear a court-specific shoe. I don't care if it's tennis, squash, badminton, padel, handball, basketball, table tennis, whatever court sport you want, that shoe is going to be better than a runner. Actually, probably not table tennis. I don't think that's strictly speaking a court sport. With that said, not all court shoes are created equal. But before we get into any of that, let me remind you that any of the products we talk about on this channel, you can check out on our website, racketsandrunners.ca. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment section what you want me to cover next. Now in the intro, I obviously said pickleball shoes, but I actually held up one of the best-selling tennis shoes, and that right there is a very important topic of discussion. You see, this court and this court are made from the same material. Sure, the two sports involve slightly different types of movements, but if you're playing pickleball mainly on an outdoor court, either a pickleball specific shoe or a tennis shoe is the way to go. And between those two, the reality is tennis shoes have a decades-long head start in terms of technology and R&D, so generally speaking, they tend to perform a bit better even on the pickleball court. That definitely doesn't mean that pickleball specific shoes are bad. In fact, some of the shoes I'm talking about today have a pickleball specific variant, but in most cases, that shoe is very similar, if not totally identical to the tennis one. New Balance. Excuse me. So yes, tennis shoes are generally great for pickleball, but again, not all tennis shoes are created equal, and there are three important characteristics you should be looking out for. First of all, there are two types of tennis shoes: structured stability shoes and lighter weight speed shoes. You're going to see a major emphasis on the latter during this video. That's because in pickleball, you're not making the same long lateral runs across the baseline into the net. That's the situation in tennis where structured stability shoes are going to hold up better than lighter ones. In pickleball, you're not moving as far, you generally don't have to cut as hard, and the sport involves much more sprightly reactive movement, and those quick changes of direction are going to be made a lot easier with a lighter shoe. Remember, even lightweight tennis and pickleball shoes still have lateral structure to them. It is a little bit less than their heavier counterparts, but still much more than a running shoe and more than enough for pickleball. Another very important characteristic of a pickleball shoe is comfort. Of course, in any sport you want to be comfortable, but we all know pickleball sessions can last a very long time, and comfort is also key if you want that lightweight, springy sensation. It's a good thing then that lightweight court shoes are generally more comfortable than stability ones. There's less stuff added to the upper on this shoe. As you can see, this stability shoe is quite busy and therefore less comfortable. Finally, we all want good durability out of our pickleball shoes, and this again is where tennis shoes shine. Tennis requires more violent movement than pickleball, so any tennis shoe must be able to withstand more of a thrashing than what you'll do to it on a pickleball court. Even if they are a little less durable than their structured stability counterparts, lightweight tennis shoes are made for tennis, so they will hold up great. So those are the three key characteristics you should look for in a pickleball shoe: lightweight, good comfort, and good durability. Without further ado, let's get into number 5. Coming in at number 5, we have the New Balance 996 V5, which technically comes in a pickleball specific variant, but I've got the tennis one here because they are literally identical. I'm serious. Other than the word pickleball on the side, there is literally no difference between the two, so showing the tennis one is kind of my way of saying don't worry too much if a shoe is branded specifically for pickleball. Enough roasting it though, because the 996 really is fantastic. It ticks all of the boxes for the criteria that I mentioned earlier. In a size 9 US, it weighs 347 grams, so it falls firmly in the category of the lightest shoes on the market, and it's also extremely comfortable. Out of the box, this is one of the most natural fitting court shoes I've ever thrown on my foot. Historically speaking, tennis shoes haven't exactly been comfortable, but it is shoes like the 996 that are slowly changing that stigma. The upper is made from a very flexible and quite breathable mesh material, and the tongue is nice and thick to stop any potential lace bite. You couldn't really see how thick it was there, so there's a better shot. Also, there are really no awkward pressure points anywhere on the shoe, and even with all that, you feel very locked in and stable because this outsole is quite wide and provides a very grounded feel. Quickly touching on durability, because obviously there's a lot of knitted material material here, so you'd be right to think it could be lacking, but New Balance has added a healthy amount of rubber here in the toe box for when your foot is dragging. I personally haven't had any issues with wear on my 996s, and the outsole also keeps its tread for a very long time, but do take that with a slight pinch of salt because it's definitely not the court shoe that I wear the most. Overall though, it's a really solid option. The reason I don't have it any higher is because there's nothing particularly special about it, but if comfort is what you're after, then it doesn't come much better than this. Now we're going from one of the most modern, lightweight, natural fitting shoes to a much more timeless and classic design. Coming in at number 4, we have the K-Swiss Hypercourt Express. Now I know I did say we'd be kind of sticking to that lightweight court shoe category, but that doesn't mean there aren't some great, more traditionally feeling court shoes that can work as well. The Hypercourt Express is a little more traditional, both in the way it's shaped and the angle it makes you stand at, especially compared to the 996. It is wider in the toe box and narrower in the heel, which is a fit so many people have grown accustomed to over the years. It also slants you down on your toes a little bit more, which is great if you like your shoes to help you stay in the ready position. This is a design that's tried and true, and for those of you who have been playing court sports for years or maybe even decades, you will probably feel most comfortable in a shoe like this. The best part about it is that it doesn't really sacrifice much weight or responsiveness in giving you that more traditional feel. It weighs 380 grams in a size 9 US, so more than the 996, but not a ridiculous amount more, and while rubber does wrap the whole upper, it's by no means uncomfortable. Of course, this amount of rubber is also going to help with durability, so you won't have to worry about these wearing out anytime soon. Basically, the Hypercourt Express is a no-nonsense court shoe that will appeal to those of you who have a lot of experience with court shoes, which is kind of my way of saying the older demographic who doesn't really need anything fancy. We're going to move on to fancy, and while that might not be the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at a Gel-Resolution 9, it absolutely is, and we'll get into that in a second. As much as I like the simplicity of a 996 and Hypercourt Express, I do think that technology and innovation, when done right, can really help improve certain performance characteristics in a court shoe. That's probably not the most insane take I've ever had. So there you go. Number 3 on the list, Gel-Resolution 9. Now right off the bat, for those of you who know this shoe, you're probably thinking, Luca, isn't this the exact opposite type of shoe you said we should look into? And you're right, this is definitely more of a structured stability shoe, but there are plenty of technological features on the Gel-Resolution 9 that make it feel much quicker than you would expect. The Dynawall sidewall here, for example, is great for providing some of the best energy return on lateral cuts. It really feels like the shoe is pushing you back the other direction with almost more force than you yourself applied. That sensation of not losing and almost gaining energy on lateral cuts is what makes it feel so responsive, and while there are other stability shoes that have similar tech, it just feels more refined on the Gel-Res. It's also very comfortable. Asics has been focusing most of their R&D on that part of the shoe for, I want to say, the last 3 generations, and also it's probably the most or second most durable shoe on the market right now. Honestly, the Gel-Resolution performs so well that on most other court shoe lists, it would probably be number 1, but because it is on the heavier side, it isn't strictly speaking the best performing pickleball shoe. It does weigh 395 grams, which isn't exactly light, but comparing it to Asics' other structured and stability shoe, the Court FF, which weighs 420 grams, it is quite a bit lighter. So up until this point, the shoes have been very good, but there has been a bit of a compromise for each. These last two are really, on paper, exactly what you want in a pickleball shoe, and while I'm not going to pick a winner quite yet, I do have to say, if it were solely up to my personal preference, I would have the Vapor Pro 2 slightly over the Solution Speed. There's no real logic behind that, other than I just kind of like this shoe a little bit more though, so let's get into some more technical characteristics. These shoes tick all 3 boxes in the ideal pickleball shoes criteria. With their mostly mesh uppers, they are extremely comfortable, and they have ample amounts of rubber in high wear zones to make them very durable. The Nike Vapor Pro 2 is pretty light, coming in at 370 grams, but the Solution Speed is on another level in terms of weight. It's almost 50 grams lighter at 325. So I am going to give out a winner now. Because this shoe is so light, but it still feels so structured and stable, I think I have to give it the number 1 spot, but that does kind of hurt because of how much I like this shoe. But anyways, the Solution Speed really provides a wonderful court shoe experience, and a really unique one for that matter. Because it has such a weightless sensation to it, you almost forget that you're wearing a pair of shoes. It also has a decent amount of rocker to it, almost like a runner, so it helps you through your gait cycle when you're scrambling for a ball. The Vapor Pro 2 is still plenty lightweight. 370 grams isn't exactly featherweight, but don't look at the fact that it's 50 grams heavier than the Solution Speed and think that it's a heavy shoe. This is just a ridiculously light shoe. My favorite thing about it though is that it is extremely comfortable. It's similar to the 996 in that there are 0 pressure points and has a very adaptive deflective upper, but I do think it's slightly above the 996 for both of those. That special factor that I mentioned was missing on the 996. This one's got that. It's also one of the most natural feeling court shoes I've ever put on my foot. You may have noticed last year, I was playing with some sort of Vapor Pro 2 for almost 7 months straight. The outsole is also really low to the ground, which I love because it gives such great feel for the court. Like I said, I do probably have to give the #1 spot to the Solution Speed because it is so light, but you really can't go wrong with either of these two. So there you have it, our top 5 pickleball shoes right now. Remember, lightweight, comfortable, and durable are your friends. Once you find a shoe that falls into those criteria, just make sure it fits well and you should be okay. With that said, that is going to be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, if you want to try on any of these shoes, you can come visit us in store or you can check them out online at racketsandrunners.ca.